Hello, this is Cheryl Wilson, and I'm showing a video of painting my ladies, my nude ladies, with acrylic inks. And I do two different sizes, and I show you just my technique, and I enjoy making them. So I hope you enjoy this video. Is show you, as I promised on my social media, that I would show how I do my my ladies, my nudes. And I mean, this is just a process for these. You can do this on many others, but these are just done on paper. And I've actually made this one into a print, and let me grab that. A print. This is just a small one, and then I'm going to be putting these in my Etsy shop. Enlarged. Here's another one. In fact, I already have this out there. I already sold one of those. And then this is just an example of, I was just playing with her skirt and then drew the top of her body. And so I wanted to go through how I do this, and so I thought it'd be kind of fun. So I'm going to bring over my tray of inks that I'm going to choose from, and these inks are both the Liquitex inks and the FX. And this is an Amsterdam, but then there's a FW inks. And then I will periodically, if I need to, even though I have white, use my white high flow. So you can see the process that I go about when I make my ladies. I'm gonna grab one that's opened. I do have fluorescent pink that I'm gonna throw in the mix. I wanted just to show you first on a piece of paper. Say there's your line of the lady's body. Again, this is how I do it. Other people do this totally different, and this is something that I suggest you just play with. And I just get my brush wet. The brush is wet from the water, and I just run it along where I want the ink to flow. And then there's my ink, and I do shake them up to get the sedatives from the bottom to the top. And then I just drop the ink down, and it just spreads. You can help it along however you want to do it. Let's do some purple. Now, if I were to put this on a dry area, the dry area is not going to go anywhere. It's just going to sit. But as you can see, when it hit against the wet area, it bloomed out. So if I wanted to put it on a dry area and have more control, I can do that. I like it when it blooms. So here is, I'm going to move my larger lady so I don't get her messed up. Here is my smaller lady, and this is just a sample, so I have not covered my paper, my desk with anything. And alright, so let's get started. On our lady. Now I'm going to use, I do have a fan brush that I will periodically use. I have a smaller brush and then a little bit wider brush. Brush size is totally up to you. You really can't make a mistake, because any mistake that you deem as a mistake. So I'm going to run the water right along her body where I want the paint to go. Okay, and I'm going to start with some of the phthalo blue green shade. And I'm just going to drop it and let it do its thing. Okay, I'm going to help this out up in this corner. Now you can outline her body. You can let the the acrylic inks be your line. It's totally an option for you. This is this green shade. You can see some of the green in there. So I'm just loving that. So I can continue there, or I can turn her over and start over on the other side. And this is on watercolor paper. I did not gesso this first. I've been asked that question. I don't gesso my paper a lot. Certainly can if you want to. I just, I don't. So I'm going to put green. This is a vivid lime green. So I'm just going to put her, I'm going to do this halfway. Now again, this is going to show, because it's transparent, some of that line. So if you want to hide the line, because you want it to look like it's just alcohol inks, you can drop in, you can outline that. Okay, this is where, if you want to bring in your brush to add some more. I'm just going to bring this on up. Okay. I'm going to add some more. And this time, I'm going to use some yellow. Just let the yellow. And you can always go back and add some other areas. I find that the bubbles work themselves out. Not. You can always go in and help them. Alright, at this point, I'm going to work on her face a little bit. I'm going to use a smaller brush. And of course, anytime you touch, this is her neck, anytime you touch to the paper and it touches over to the other side, then you are bringing in, the water just kind of flows from the one spot to the other. So I'm just going to do a little spot. This is the Roller Downy, or the Dowler Rowney, FX is what I call it, Indian Yellow, which I absolutely love. And you can mix that with some white if you want to bring her face color more of a traditional color. Or you can, you know, darken it up for black shades. It all depends on what you want. Very abstract, so I'm not as concise. I do whatever color I think I'm looking at for that moment. Okay, so All right, let's do a spot down there, and I'm going to turn her. I'm not very good about my lids back on. You have to be careful because I have spilled. But I'm going to turn her sideways so you can see. I'm going to put a dot of the deep violet right here. I didn't have as much water, so I'm going to push the water, and this time I'm going to use my fan brush. I'm just going to, I just wanted a touch of that. Let that blend in. Okay. So I'm liking so far what I have. Let's see. Let's add, this is some of the FW fluorescent pink. I'm going to add that right in the middle of her back. It's kind of like the line of her back. Put a little bit down here. Now you can also put, you know, a little bit of your paint or your acrylic inks on your palette and dip into it that way. So I'm just adding little touches, not too much. And if you want to dab up anything, just use your paper towel. So here she is so far, and I'm really liking her. It's just very simple, simplistic. Now, to do the hair, there's a couple things you can do for her hair. You can let this totally dry so that if you touch some of the wet spot, it doesn't go wild on you. This is iridescent rich brown, or I'm just going to take the brush and kind of go like this. Still has some of that. And you can follow this up with a pencil, gold, whatever suits your fancy. And I'm just going to go around very haphazardly. And I'm going to put a little bit on my palette so I can pull from there. I like very loose, very, very looseness. So I'm just pushing this around. Carving up my lines. And I'm going to add some of the white in there. And you don't want to overdo. I tend to sometimes get heavy-handed. And then I have to go in and figure out a way to fix it. Which, you know, you can do that. I mean, anything that you do can be fixed. The best thing to do is to play with as much recklessness and abandonment as you can, is what I call it. Don't be afraid. Okay, there's her hair. Now I do have some gold, so I'm going to add just a touch of gold to her hair. Bring it off. There we go. I'm liking that. I like the looseness of her. I like the freedom of her. So let's go on to the bigger one. I just wanted to do a smaller one to give you a view of what it looks like. Now you got to be careful when you move her because there are still areas that are wet, and you just don't, if it's a puddle, soak the puddle up before you move her. Okay. But I think we're up for it. Alright, again, I have a lot of lines through here because I just wanted this very loose. So I'm taking the brush, and I'm a lot looser this time than I was with the other one. So I'm just, this time, let's start with some of the black. It's going to be a, okay. Now this is laying down more because of the other one. I did not have it taped down to anything. You can do that if that bothers you. Okay, I'm going to have some drips of the white. Just very loosely. You could do the whole thing in a black and white and it would look absolutely beautiful, but I'm going to, let's see, add some gold in. Gold is kind of thicker and it tends to not spread out as much, so you have to practice with the gold, and I haven't done that as much practicing with the gold, but I'm just going to go ahead and go for it. Alright, so we're going to do the other side. And I'm going to go ahead and throw some of the blue in here. And we're going to go ahead and let this start to... I didn't put as much water down in the bottom part here. So I'm going to pull this through. It just gives it a slightly different look. I love the blooming out that it does when you put the water down first, but I also like having it do different things. I don't like things to always be the same. So let's I'm going to go in fact, I'm going to go in over here and add some yellow. I did not have this planned. This is totally what I'm feeling in the moment. Okay. I'm liking how it's pooling up there. This has got some residual in it, so there's an example of when something happens that it's just not as controlled. Just got to go for it. Anything you can do, you can always come back with something to fix, alter. That's why don't be afraid to do things for fear that you're going to make a mistake, because mistakes happen. But if you constantly am afraid of making any mistakes, you're not going to take risks and you're not going to learn and go further in your art career, art journey. Okay. Now, at this point, I'm going to take a little bit of the paper and just do some dabbing in some sections and just kind of push the paint. This gives a little different look. I want to blend this more. And it's going to turn muddy in some areas if you tend to mix colors that are like opposite of the color wheel, which that doesn't bother me. Believe it or not, it doesn't bother me. Okay, I'm going to work with some of this pink. Touches. Okay. You can see her so far, and just gonna be bold and throw in some of that white and just let it do what it wants. I like how it's spreading in here. It doesn't bother me. All right, I'm gonna go up to, that was a fan brush. I'm gonna grab a different brush. I'm gonna go up and work on her face. Now this puddle right here, I'm going to go ahead and pull some of that out. I have one going on down here. I'll pull some of this out. See, the paper's starting to buckle, which is fine with me. You can tape this down if it's something that you would rather have taped down. Alright, so I already had a little bit of color in my brush. Okay, now I touched her neck and just let some of that green go up into her face. I'm going to dab some of that. And let's see. I don't have a lot of the Indian yellow left, but to do that, a little white. Now for her, I have a lot of lines going on here, which I'm gonna keep that because I may go back and do something with that. But for her hair, I am going to, it's at the top, so it's a little harder for me to reach where I'm sitting, but I don't want to move this around, and I want to continue doing the demo for you. And I'm going to grab the fan brush, and I'm not doing the lines, I'm just swirling this around. Let's see what that does. Very haphazard. You can leave it. You can leave it with lines and leave her face alone. I don't know if you can hear my cat running around, but around 2:30 she gets fed. So about now she's starting to tell me that she wants me to pay attention to her. I'm gonna be bold and just do. That's a bold statement with her hair. Very messy, but that's what I'm going for. Go ahead and bring this, fill in some of the lines. These are her bangs. We'll see how that dries. Now, a good thing to do is to let this dry and then reevaluate where you're at, where you want to go. You can always add more to the top. You can always paint around her body like the sample I showed you. But this is just kind of an example of where we're at. I'm going to add some more fluorescent. Throw that in a couple places. Now, what I'm doing when I do that is I'm looking at where there's some dark areas, and I just wanted to brighten it up a little bit. Another thing I like to do is just splatter. No rhyme or reason, that's what I like. Might not be something that you like on your paintings. So I'm going to let this dry, and then I'll come back when it's dry, and let me see if I can pull this light off. Kind of gives you a different look to where I'm going. Let this dry, I'll turn it sideways and let you see where I'm at. What I want to do with her. And I don't mind the pulling of the ink. I mean, that's the way I like it. So there's a little spot on her hair that I don't like very well that I'm going to fix. And I'm not going to use the acrylic. I'm going to use, I'm not going to use the acrylic ink. I'm going to use a another, just a regular acrylic. If I want to bring that black line that I originally had, I'm not going to do this for everything. Just a couple spots that are bothering me. Like around her face, I like that. Alright. I like a very organic look, so I don't want to do too much of this because this will take away some of the organic. Or I tend to take away the organic myself by going in and forcing lines. So let's see, what do we want to have here on her body. Piece of paper, and if I want to have lines that are just very haphazard, this is a nice tool. This is a Faber-Cast, the Artist Pit Pen. Here is a Micron, and this is probably brown. Kind of the same thing, not as thick, a little thinner. Here's a fine point Sharpie. I almost like the Sharpie. The other's kind of thin. Maybe for the smaller piece that would have been more of a liking. Now I'm taking a chance by doing this. I mean, you could just leave this the way it is, but I like some of the freedom, so I'm going to go ahead and totally ruin her. But I'm going to go ahead and just freedomly add So that was a total choice on my part to have a very abstract flowing line flow on her body. So that was totally something that you can decide to do or you don't have to do. So she is to the point where I like her. I could certainly keep working on her and do a couple other things, but I like a very minimalistic look, and she fits that. So she's ready to sign. There we go.
Here is the 9x12 that I did, and I'm going to show you some finishing touches that I put on her, and then move back into the larger one, the 24x30 or something on paper. So just wanted to come in here and give you a heads up that this smaller one is coming next.
Is some more of a fluid acrylic paint. I have white in here. I love doing sgraffito on my paintings, so I'm going to go ahead and lightly do it. It's gonna just very little bit. Sgraffito is nothing that is readable, but it's just slightly. You can barely see it on her body, but I really just love that. And you're going to put the I did it without the blue on it, but you're going to put, there's a wire here, and you're going to make sure it's aligned to go right back in the metal tip. But here is my first one I did, the, what is it, the 8.5 by 10, and she's just beautiful. I mean, there's other things you could probably do on here. You could paint the outer edge of her. You could do more sgraffito, maybe in a different color. Just a lot of things you can do. She's just beautiful, and I'm going to just erase the lines that I see.